In this video, I'm speaking with Kimbrough Davis, and we're going to go through and discuss the tools to manage death and taxes through estate plans. Kimbrough is a partner at the law firm of Canner Baker. Kimbrough, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
So, Kimbrough, for our first question, let's talk about conversations around your estate and legacy assets. In your work with estate planning, how do you counsel people in their thinking about their legacy? And does the financial or estate planning change as people age?
Well, generally, when we have dealing with clients on their estate plans, we find out a good deal about their family, whether they have children, grandchildren, married, single, that type of thing, and how they see the disposition of their estates when they pass away. And a lot of that has to do with the tax planning and trying to save on the estate tax in the person's estate. In the present time, the exemption from the estate tax is so high, north of $12 million, so that a married couple would have an exemption of over $24 million. Fewer and fewer estates are becoming subject to the estate tax. Be that as it may, the exemption could drop back, and it's scheduled to drop back to around $6 million in 2026, unless Congress acts before. But that's a long way of saying that estate planning differs from case to case, depending on whether or not the estate is likely to attract an estate tax. As people get older, what happened is obviously they become more aware of how their situation might look when they pass away. And so they can do some modifications to their planning depending on how their beneficiaries, such as their children or their grandchildren, what needs they have. They may want to change their wills. And also, as people age, they get into end-of-life planning, such things as advanced directives, durable powers of attorney, and that type planning. The advanced directive is really what we used to call living wills and a healthcare power, which is different from the durable power of attorney. The durable power is put into effect to avoid conservatorship. You get someone else to take over your bill paying, dealing with your investments and the day-to-day financial aspects of your life, to avoid having to go to the probate court and do a conservatorship.
Okay. Well, Kimbrough, can you explain the basic difference between income tax and estate tax charitable deductions, and how should taxes factor into a person's decision-making process with their estate plans?
Well, first, understand the obvious that we're talking about two different taxes. The estate tax is something that could occur if you're wealthy enough in your estate. The income tax is something, of course, that we deal with every year. And a bequest under will to a charity is 100% deductible under the estate tax laws. The income tax charitable deduction is much more complex in that there are, number one, limitations on how much a person can give and take a deduction for. And then there are additional limitations on the type of charity that the gift is made to. They're so-called, what I call anyway, full-blown charities that you get 100% of the limitation on the charitable deduction, such as colleges, churches, synagogues, those type charities. But then there are charities that you get lesser of a deduction to, depending on what type gift you make to them, such as private foundations, family foundations, advised funds, and those type things.
Okay. So, Kimbrough, advisors can help people determine the most beneficial deferred giving techniques. What are some of the options that people can use to make their plan meet the needs of both the family and their planned giving objectives?
Well, deferred giving really has to do with setting up, in most cases, charitable remainder trusts where you can give property or assets to a charity and retain an income interest for yourself, or the charitable lead trust, where it's just the opposite. You set up a trust and the charity gets the return on the trust assets during a period, say for 10 years. And then the gifted property comes back to the donor. But someone else is speaking in more detail about deferred giving, so I'll just give you that broad overview.
Okay. Well, tell us, how did you become involved at CVI, Kimbrough?
I became involved. Let's see, I was for about 20 years. I was on the Georgia iBot board and actually helped found that organization. And then I retired from that board, and one of my law partners was a friend of the then director of the Centers for the Visually Impaired, and asked me if I would come on that board. And I think there was about a 2 or 3 year hiatus from the time I left the iBike to the time I went on the CVI board. Interestingly, as sort of a side note, when I got on the CVI board, we looked into what was going on in the CVI Foundation, the foundation that manages the charitable gifts that the center receives. And I found that I believe it was in the late 60s, that my name was on the charter that we did for CVI. I was a young lawyer at the time working for my senior partner who had a great interest in vision issues and charities, Louis Reaganstein.
So I heard that you were instrumental in establishing the planned giving program at CVI. How do planned gifts contribute to the overall mission of the organization?
Well, the planned giving has to do with really deferred giving, and that allows the charity, in this case CVI, to better plan for its future if it knows what gifts or what requests or trust funds might be coming to it in the future. One other point I need to make about my earlier comments about the taxation and the benefits you get from the income tax and the estate tax by making charitable gifts is that it's not all about the taxes. I mean, the person has to have a legitimate interest in the charity they're giving to and to believe in its mission. And I always advise my clients to look on any tax benefits as more or less a bonus to what they already wish to do in terms of charitable giving.
Excellent. Kimbrough, I appreciate you coming on and sharing. To learn more about CVI, please visit cviga.org, and you can reach Kimbrough at kdavis@cannerbaker.com or via phone 404-566-4732. Thanks again for coming on, Kimbrough.
Thank you, Jay.